All right, joining us next on stage is 2012 NHRA Funny Car champion and newest edition of John Force Racing full-time. It was just announced 30 minutes ago or so. Jack Beckman. Jack, thanks for taking the time, and I feel like you're probably the happiest man alive right now.
Well, that actually has a really good ring to it. I'm not sure it's quite set in. I'm not a morning person. Had we done this at 10 at night, I think I would have been more in tune with it. But when they rolled the cover back on that Peak Chevy Camaro, and you see my name there, and I love that they did that tribute deal. It says John Brute Force with his old Iron Fist on there. They're going to give me 20 more shots at this.
And you mentioned 20 more shots. Obviously, you started out the year elevator repairman, didn't really have any thought of going 330 miles an hour, for at least a little bit. And then,
yeah, my work van's governed at 75, just so you know.
70, is that generous? Or anyway, when you get the call to come in and fill in for John, I mean, what are those emotions like? Obviously, knowing John, knowing the situation and everything.
Nobody wanted John to get hurt. Nobody's ever going to replace John. Somebody was going to get the call to fill in for him for 8 races in 2024 while he decides what his long-term plans are. And that was absolutely surreal. I was out of the cockpit for 3 years and 9 months. I had nothing lined up. I went back to a career that I was away from for 22 years. And I went back the week after my last race, which was Vegas 2020. And I thought, that's that. This is where I'll retire. And then I got that phone call. And then I'm driving John Force's car. And I couldn't tell you in an hour the emotions that were involved with all of that. And I don't know if John's going to retire or that's a decision he's going to make later on. But to get an opportunity to know you're going to be in the same car for the entire season and that car can win races in a championship is, for a guy that's going to go back to fixing elevators Monday, I go back to my regular job, I will have a smile on my face, I guarantee it.
And during those first couple races, how long do you feel it took for you to really get back into the swing of things and kind of maybe the speed caught you off guard, or what was that feeling like?
That part wasn't bad. The part that was tough was putting the helmet on. I had only ever cackled a Nostalgia Top Fuel car in the 3 years, 9 months that I was out of the cockpit. I had no practice. But getting shoved into that tight area and getting the harnesses crushed down on you, I hated it. I really didn't know how that was going to feel until I stood on the throttle the first time. I'm like, oh, okay, that's not that bad. And I forgot what it was like in the summertime to sweat, wearing all that stuff. In fact, in my work van, I had turned off the air conditioner and rolled the windows up for the couple weeks before that just to kind of try to get prepared. California Highway Patrol is not fond of anybody wearing a helmet driving a work van, so I didn't do that, but I wore it on the couch at home and I practiced some runs. But once I stood on the throttle, it was like, okay, it's back there in my mind. And I think the important thing to realize is during the off season for the 14 years that I drove full time, I always practiced driving a funny car. So every day I was practicing like I was in there. For the 3 years and 9 months that I was away from the sport, I never once practiced until I got offered the ride because it would have been depressing to practice something I wasn't going to get to go implement. So I was really in a potential situation to be rusty. I still work for the Frank Hawley Drag Racing School, and Frank is huge on visualization. So once it was confirmed that I was going to be in that car for the 8 races for 2024, I went back and I practiced a bunch. That helped out a tremendous amount.
And obviously it paid off because then countdown hits, you win 2 of the 6 races during that time span. What was the winning feeling like? Obviously, it'd been 3.5, 4 years since you'd last won a race. What was that kind of gratification like?
So knowing you can win as compared to holding the trophy at the end of race day with your crew in the winner's circle are light years apart. In other words, if you drive a car that's not going to win the race, you're probably not thinking about either one of them. I knew getting in that car, we were capable of winning. But racing luck can intervene a whole bunch, good or bad. You still may not ever win. So to close the deal in St. Louis, like I'm at half track and our car is hauling butt. The guys turned it up against Caps for the final round. And then it puts a hole out on the right side. Then it puts a second hole out and it starts making a hard move to the wall and the throttle shuts off right before the finish line. And I went, oh, and then I saw my win light come on. I don't want to say it's life-changing. It's pretty damn cool, though.
And the guy that you pretty much had to contend the whole way was teammate Austin Prock. I mean, those guys were obviously lights out the whole way. To be there firsthand, watching them, having to compete against them, but also being a teammate to them. Can you describe just how incredible their run was?
Yeah, I think our Pete Camaro was the best car in drag racing. And Austin's Cornwall Camaro might have been that much better. They had that twice in a generation season. What they did was just, it wasn't unprecedented because Prudhomme's done it, Force has done it. His dad, Jimmy Prock, has done that with Robert Hyde. He did that with me. But they won 8 out of 20. They set the single season mark for number one qualifiers in a season that was 4 races shorter than what we've had in the past. They are going to have the most ginormous target on their backs, but so will we for next year, and bring it on. I mean, that's a great feeling. Would you rather suck and slide in there next year and nobody looks at you, or have a car and a team that's dominating, wins a bunch of races, and people take you seriously? I will take the latter on those two.
And final question, just going into next year, now your mindset has shifted and you're a full-time NHRA driver again. Just how are you going to prepare and get back into the, I guess you already are back in the swing of things, but how do you roll into next year knowing that I got a shot at the championship?
That's actually a great question, and I hadn't really thought about it. As I said earlier, this Monday I'll be back fixing elevators, and I kind of like just being an average guy. Don't get me wrong, standing up on top of the car holding the Wally and getting sprayed with champagne is just unbelievable. But I also kind of like being a normal guy. So I don't think I'm going to have a lot of time to dwell on that in the off season. I'll be doing my 7 to 4:30 job. But I think once we get closer to the Bradenton race, which we will treat as a test session, and then we will start taking it seriously as it goes into eliminations there, that's when you start to focus in. And now racing's a little bit different in the countdown format. There's a trophy every single race, so every single race matters. It's not like the regular season in baseball. But the last 6 races, they matter more now. And I guess if there's an upside to that, you've got 14 races to play with the car and the tune-up and frankly yourself as a driver to get honed in on that. But I'll tell you this, from the first time I step on the throttle to the last round at the finals next year, I will be trying my best every time I strap in.
Well, Jack, we appreciate you taking the time. Congratulations again. Newest edition, going full-time for a championship next year at John Force Racing. That is Jack Beckman, 2012 NHRA Funny Car Champion.